Hereditary is here back with some paranormal and supernatural stuff. Stay tuned for the second event as it is really an interesting one. First event. Paralyzing fear from experience in old apartment. I never knew what to call this thing because I never saw it. After reading a lot of other people's stories, I noticed many people talk about this feeling of extreme dread that washes over them when they have some of these experiences. I want to share something weird that happened to me 10 years ago that I'll never forget. I was in college and living with my ex-boyfriend in an apartment nearby. We used to watch movies constantly and would often fall asleep on separate couches configured in an L shape, where one was along the back wall of the living area, and the other couch backed up along a railing that separated the living area from the slightly raised dining area and kitchen. The railing had thin metal bars coming down and was only a few feet high, not much separating the rooms at all. My ex and I had fallen asleep after watching a movie one night on the couches, and I woke up to him whispering my name, but a very loud and urgent whisper near my head. I woke up right away, and asked what was wrong. He whispered, "Do you hear that?" I listened, and heard the sound like someone breathing from behind me in the dining area, like someone who smoked for a million years by the sounds of it, and this disgusting scratching like someone slowly moving and clicking their nails on the ground. I was like, "Ex-boyfriend, can you go look?" He didn't respond. It was like as soon as he told me about it he went right back to sleep. I was kind of annoyed and tried to just close my eyes and sleep. Then I heard it again, and this horrible feeling filled my whole body, like I knew it was there but couldn't turn around to look. Just this constant rattling breath and scraping of the ground. I was basically not even breathing. I was shaking but couldn't bring myself to get off the couch or reach for the lamp. I thought I would die because of the horror and helplessness I felt. I must have laid there for close to an hour like that before I somehow fell asleep, because next thing I knew it was morning. My ex didn't remember anything about it. I have had a similar feeling 2 other times in my life, but I was able to leave the area. Once as a child in a spare room of my friend's house, the other when I was 20 on the seldom used top floor of a Chinese mall outside a closed dress shop. I got the hell out the second I felt that intense doom and never saw or heard anything weird during these, just the feeling. Second event. Waking up covered in blood. First of all, I would like to say that this is a true story despite how crazy it sounds. Even though it's been years since it happened, I finally plucked up the courage to actually write about this because I want to know if there is an explanation for what happened to me. I will try my best to be as detailed as possible despite it happening when I was 7. When I was little, I shared a room with my sister. We had bunk beds, with my sister on the bottom one and me on the top. One night I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. When I turned on the bathroom light, I looked down to see me covered in blood. And by covered I mean covered in blood. Starting from the very top of my neck all the way to my feet, the front plane of my body was red. It looked like I put on 10 bottles of red lotion. You couldn't see my skin at all. It was even in between my fingers and my toes. What was even stranger was that the whole front of my body was covered in blood, but there wasn't a speck of blood on my clothes. I was wearing a nightshirt and underwear, but there was no blood on them. There was blood on my chest, arms, and stomach, underneath the shirt, but none on my actual shirt. My mom heard me get up and saw the bathroom light on, so she came to check on me. I remember her telling me to take off my clothes so she could wash me off, and then she sent me to bed to take off my bed sheets, because they would have to have blood on them. I remember not really freaking out because my mom seemed so calmed, so I climbed back up on my bed to take off the sheets. Well, guess what? There was no blood on the sheets either. Not a single drop of blood were on my white sheets or white blanket. I told my mom and she checked herself, but she didn't see any blood, so she told me to go back to sleep. Years later I asked her about this night, because at that point when I thought about it I thought it must have been a dream because her and I were so calm at the sight of me bathed in blood. When I asked her though, she told me how terrified she was. She told me that she tried not to freak out for my sake, but she honestly thought I got stabbed with how much blood there was. She told me that right away she was looking for wounds, but she couldn't find any. She thought either there was an intruder in the house who stabbed me, which there wasn't because she checked every door and window, or she thought my sister somehow woke up and stabbed me, which was also very unlikely because she has cerebral palsy and wouldn't have been able to climb the ladder by herself. She told me that once I went back to sleep she checked on me every 10 minutes while I slept for 2 weeks. She told me she couldn't sleep because she was so terrified and that I looked like I stepped out of a horror movie. Over the years I never really thought about what could be an explanation, but the more and more conspiracy videos and paranormal videos I watch, I'm starting to think that it had to have been something paranormal. When I look back at my childhood and put all the little things together, it starts to make sense. For example, when I was little I used to have horrible nightmares. They were either about the devil or about me dying, sometimes both. I still remember a lot of these dreams despite it being years. I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder at 8, so I thought maybe the dreams stemmed from my stress or something. I also have sleep paralysis quite often. Normally I'm very chill about it because I've had it so many times, so I tell myself you'll move when you wake up again, so I would just fall back asleep. The last time I had sleep paralysis though, long story short, this dark creature jumped on me and started clawing at my chest to get my heart. It was so painful, and when I woke up there was actually pain in my chest. Whenever I pass by a cemetery I get physical shivers up my spine, which people have seen and commented on before. My mom told me of one time that she was driving our old car and it stalled, so she pulled to the side of the road. The engine lights on the dashboard started flashing and the speedometer started spinning, and when everything turned off the speedometer landed on 666,666. She then proceeded to freak out and run out of the car and call my aunt to pick her up. She got rid of the car not long after. I would have thought that this story was fake, but my mom isn't really a religious person, despite raising me in a Catholic household, so she would have no reason to make this up. Last but not the least event. My haunted childhood bedroom. This is a story from my childhood and one of the things that to this day still sends a shiver up my spine. My dad has a very small house. It was all he could afford after the divorce. It was built in 1920 and has approximately 4 rooms, 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and living room/kitchen, all in 595 square feet. So my brother and I shared a single bedroom which was also small, so to conserve space we had bunk beds. I had the top bunk. I was always scared of the room and had a huge fear of the dark. I still kind of do. Back then we had this large dollhouse in the room. It was about 5 feet tall I think and sat on the opposite wall of the room. That night I already had that sense of dread, like something was off, and so like usual I was hiding under my covers. But when the air got too hot and stifling I had to peek my head out. When I did, I looked through the bars of the bunk bed and saw a young boy probably my age standing next to the dollhouse. It was not my brother, who was fast asleep in the bed below. Quickly after I saw him I ducked back under my comforter. Heart racing, breathing heavily. But then after a few minutes of repeating to myself that he wasn't there, ghosts aren't real, and it's just your imagination. I had to check to make sure what I had saw was gone, but when I finally got the nerve to pull back the covers, it wasn't the dollhouse that I saw, it was the boy's face up against the bars of the bunk bed staring at me. I can't remember if I screamed or just hid again. But I do know that I called for my brother and hit the wall until he woke up. But he never saw the little boy and I never saw the boy again. There are other stories from that room dating up until I moved out early this year. Whether it was objects being moved, Christmas lights swaying without a breeze, a woman standing at the foot of my bed, or when my dad saw a child crawl out of the room in underwear and he yelled at them, think it was either me or my brother, but found us playing in the room fully clothed. The house has no history of anyone dying there or tragedy. But these are just the things that happened involving that room, not the whole house. Which has a few more paranormal stories.